Hi everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome back to Blue Heron Hill. I am Sue and I'm happy that you're back here with me in this brand new year. I took December off. We had lots going on and we still have lots going on. But this is a pretty busy time of year for me too. I like to do a lot of canning this time of year. We took our 2 pigs to the butcher in December. I just got the meat back, so I've been concentrating on trying to clean out the freezers, consolidate things, make them easier, free up some space. So that's what I'm doing today, is freeing up some space. I found some beef roast, some chuck roast, and I am going to be making some beef stew. It is one of our favorite things to have in the pantry, and I don't have any right now. But this is a good time because with all that pork coming in, I've made a little bit more space. But also, for instance, my potatoes are starting to sprout. These are red Norlands, and they sprout early. They don't last very long for long-term storage, unlike a potato like this, which is a Kennebec, which stores for at least in my area downstairs about another month. So what I do is I can these, and I'll can quarts of potatoes for use for the rest of the year in the summer till my new crop comes in. But so they're starting to sprout, so they're a perfect combination for beef stew. I have my own onions. These are all the kind of the smaller ones. I've been trying to use those up more. I have carrots. Now these aren't my carrots. I did buy these at the store. Most of my carrots are in long-term storage already, either in the freezer or jarred up in on my pantry shelves. And then I also have broth, which we're going to be using for the beef stew. This is a chicken broth or turkey. I'm not sure which one, but you could use that for a beef stew. I have no beef broth. I have a bunch of bones downstairs, but I'd have to roast them and process them for a lot of beef broth, which I didn't have time for, if I was going to do this. But chicken broth works just as well, and you really can't tell the difference. If you don't have any broth at all, you can use better than bouillon or store-bought beef broth or whatever you want. It works. So we have a lot of things going. I'm going to show you a little clip of what's going on a little later in the video outside. Very exciting things happening here on Blue Heron Hill. So let me go and get all of this chopped up and ready to go in the jars, and I'll show you how I do that. So easy. I'll be back. Finally chopped everything all up, and we are ready to go. I have 7 jars. I use wide mouth jars, especially in this instance when I have, all these ingredients and everything, instead of trying to stuff them down into a narrow opening in a regular mouth jar. Pressure canner is gently heating up on the stove right now. It will fit 7 quart jars. We'll see how far this takes us. I'm not really sure if I can get 7 or if I'll get more, but we're going to see. So all of my ingredients here are roughly cut up into the same dimensions. That's kind of important for the process. So I am going to start with, I don't know, a cup's worth or so of meat in each jar. Now you can use gloves on your hands and a funnel and all that stuff and some kind of an implement to fill your jars. My hands are clean. Everything else is clean. I just like to get my hands in there and do it. This is such an easy process that anybody can do it, and the outcome is fabulous. You'll have beef stew ready to eat. It looks like I might be able to get everything in 7 right here. Okay. Make sure. That's pretty good. I'm going to lightly tamp down my meat. That is my first ingredient in the jar. Okay. At this point in time, I like to put a little salt in here. So I'm going to put almost a teaspoon of salt in each jar. This is just for flavor. Voila. Next ingredient is my potatoes. So maybe almost an equal amount of potatoes. There we go. I'm not too worried about having leftovers. They will be easy for a soup. Later. Okay, carrots. Next up. This one looks a little... I'm throwing these vegetables everywhere. There are no exact measurements here. If you don't like potatoes, you can leave them out and just use carrots or onions or celery. If you don't like carrots, put something else in. All right. Okay, here's my celery. I put in just a little bit on the top. Doesn't matter if it's frozen. It's all going into the pressure cooker. And the temperature will rise up to what everything else is. Okay, I'm going to have to make sure I leave room for the next, which was onions. Ooh. These onions are still potent. Okay. All right. I'm going to make sure that I have 1 inch of headspace. This not only applies to the liquid that's going in here, but also the vegetables. You want to make sure they are under that 1 inch. And on this jar, this band here is about the 1 inch line. So I'm going to try and stick by that. Oh. There we go. All right, I heated up my broth. And you do want to use broth, or you can just use water if you wish. That doesn't have a lot of fat in it. because what happens with the fat, it may bubble up in the processing and get under that rim of the lid, and then you won't be able to have a good seal. I may not have enough broth, so I am going to at least give one of these every jar at least a cup of broth, and then I can fill the rest of the way up with water. I do need some more. Here we are back again. I'm waiting for my water to boil still. I got my lids. You don't have to wash the lids anymore, although I do rinse them off a little, just a wee bit with some warm water. You don't need to soak them in warm water anymore. It's not even recommended. I think they don't want this seal to soften, because then it may lose some of its adhesion properties. So okay, I've got a little bit of water, and I'm going to top off to 1 inch headspace. There we go. Now it's important to debubble, which means you take some kind of an implement, anything wooden, plastic, except not metal, because a metal may scratch and break your glass jars, and then you may lose the whole thing. So poke it down around the sides of the jar, and this will release any of the bubbles that might be trapped in your different ingredients, especially the meat down way at the bottom. And you'll oftentimes find that the level of your liquid will have gone down a little bit. So it's a little high right here. I can see that, and it's a little low right there. So we're going to take some from one and put it in the other. Okay. Well, pretty good. Okay, an important step not to leave out is wiping the rims. And since we were using beef, which is fatty, we want to make sure that none of our rims have any fat deposits on it at all. So sometimes you might just use water to clean, but in this instance, it's important to use vinegar. That will cut that fat. And believe me, not that much vinegar is going to go into your jar, and your product is not going to taste like vinegar. I measured all my jars with my little measurer to make sure that it was at 1 inch headspace. Okay, now it's time we put on our lids. And finger tight. So I center my lid on, hold it down with my finger, and twist my ring to finger tight. You don't want your wrist to crank down on that at all. Now to load my canner. Your canner should have some kind of a rack on the bottom so there's no direct contact with the bottom of this canner, which gets insanely hot. There. Put your lid on, lock it tight, and the pressure will build inside the pressure canner and steam will start coming out of this vent hole here. You time it for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I put my pressure lid on it, and then the pressure will start to build in my area, my altitude. I need 10 pounds of pressure, and when that reaches that, then I start timing it for 90 minutes. It's coming to within 2 minutes of the pressure canner being done. But I had an idea. I had the leftover potatoes and carrots and onions, and I just thought I'd throw it all together and make some scalloped potatoes for dinner tonight. So what I did was, since I didn't even process up the rest of the potatoes that were starting to sprout, I went ahead and I did that. I put it in a big pot. I have my carrots, diced them up a little bit smaller. I also threw in some sweet potatoes, sliced them up, and mixing this all together, a little salt and pepper, a little thyme, a little garlic, a little bit more onion, and I am just kind of sauteing it up just a wee bit in here. And what I'm going to add now is 2 bay leaves, a cup of heavy cream, and a cup of chicken broth. So that's going in here. This cooks up for about 30 minutes on a nice simmer, and then I'll put it in a casserole dish into the oven with cheese on the top. Yummy. That's my version of scalloped potatoes. So let me get stirring this up just a little bit here. Take a peek at this. There you go, you can see that. That'll come up to a boil really soon. My timer is up. And it's on the canner here. I'm going to just turn off the heat altogether. And let's get this here. This pressure gauge, that's got to come down around to 0 again right here. And then when it does that, I can wait for about 10 minutes or so, take off this vent cap, leave the top still on for about another 10 minutes, then I could just crack it just slightly so the temperature and the ambient temperature kind of mix a little bit, and it'll be perfect. Here I made 2. One for dinner tonight, and this is going to go in the freezer. So into the oven about 350, 375 for about 20 minutes till it just gets nice and bubbly and the cheese browns up a little bit on the top. Here we are. They are just beautiful. We still have bubbling going on here. I just took them out. They are very, very hot. Now, when you do can, these rings are still, they're loose. That's because the vacuuming inside the jar is pulling down on these lids. You don't tighten these at all. You let nature and the cooling process seal these jars by pulling that down. That's where you get the pop on the lid. These have to stay here for at least 12 hours, if not 24, until they're totally cleaned off. Then I'll take the rings off. I'll wash the jars, I'll label them, and then they go down into the pantry. Now, if you notice, I only have 6 here. I did have an accident. I accidentally bumped one against the side of the pressure cooker, and the glass broke. I don't know why. There may have been a fault in the glass, or it was just that it was so hot, and the bumping on the side of the can caused that to fracture. So I lost one. Oh, but I still have 6 to put down. And I do have some more beef in the freezer that I'll get out, and I'll do another round of beef stew sometimes later. But anyway, so thanks for following along with me on my first video of 2024. And I hope you will stick around and see lots more of what's going on here at Blue Heron Hill. I'm just going to put in a little clip of something that's happening outside that I'll let you in on more later. So until the next time that we can go digging in the dirt, although it's still pretty cold out there and the ground is frozen, or cooking in the kitchen. Bye.